Hey everybody, and welcome back to Sip and Talk. Okay, gotta say this week has been pretty wild.
Oh yeah. What happened? Spill the tea?
Oh, it's just the usual chaos, you know?
Yeah.
Like the grocery store was a total disaster.
Oh no, what happened at the grocery store this time?
Well, picture this.
Yeah.
There was this runaway shopping cart.
A runaway shopping cart. Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, and it just crashed right into this huge pyramid of pickles.
Oh my God, a pickle avalanche.
It was a pickle apocalypse, jars everywhere, juice all over the floor.
That sounds pretty messy.
Yeah, and to top it off, there was a very confused pigeon right in the middle of it all.
A pigeon? Like, what was it doing?
I don't even know. It's just adding to the whole chaotic vibe.
Yeah.
You know? It was like a scene out of a movie.
Okay, that definitely beats anything that happened to me this week.
But see, this is what I love about these deep dives.
What do you mean?
It's like real life throws these crazy situations at you, and it gets you thinking about the bigger picture.
Yeah, it makes you realize there's more to life than just spill pickles and confuse pigeons.
Exactly. And speaking of the bigger picture, we've got a pretty heavy deep dive plan for today.
Oh yeah. What are we diving into?
Well, we're going to be tackling some pretty mind-bending stuff.
Like what?
Think Einstein, the universe, humanity, time, all that good stuff.
Oh, okay. We're going deep this time.
We are. We've got a bunch of articles about this famous Einstein quote, you know the one, about the universe and human stupidity.
Yeah. Two things are infinite, the universe and human stupidity. And I'm not sure about the universe.
That's the one. But, you know, some of the sources we looked at weren't actually clear if he really said that.
Really? So it could be like an internet myth, like Einstein never actually said it.
It's possible. But hey, even if it's not a direct quote, it's still a pretty thought-provoking idea, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it makes you think about the vastness of the universe and, well, the limitations of human intelligence.
Exactly. So let's start with that first part, the universe being infinite.
Okay. So is the universe actually infinite? What does science say about that?
Well, there's this thing called Hubble's law, which basically says the galaxies are constantly moving away from each other.
Wait, really? All of them?
Yeah, and the farther away they are, the faster they're moving.
So it's like the universe is expanding, kind of like a balloon being blown up?
That's a good way to put it. And if it keeps expanding forever, doesn't that mean it has to be infinite?
That's what you'd think, right? But it's not that simple.
Why not?
Well, some scientists believe that the universe might be finite but boundless.
Wait, what does that even mean? Finite but boundless. My brain hurts already.
Yeah, it's a pretty mind-bending concept.
So it's like there's an edge to the universe, but you can't actually reach it.
Well, imagine a flat surface that just wraps around itself forever, like a sphere.
So like a giant cosmic donut.
Exactly. So the universe could be finite, meaning it has a limited size, but because it's curved in on itself, it would have no boundaries.
Okay, that's trippy. So it's not necessarily infinite, but it's still limitless in a way.
Exactly. But then it begs the question, if the universe isn't infinite, what's beyond it?
Ooh, that's a good question. What's out there? Another universe, a cosmic wall.
Or maybe just more donuts.
Maybe. But for now, let's get back to Einstein's quote in that second part about human stupidity being infinite.
Oh yeah, the infinite potential of human stupidity. Feeling a little called out right now.
Hey, speak for yourself. But you're right, there's definitely no shortage of examples, is there?
Not at all. I mean, from those historical blunders to those everyday facepalm moments, it seems like we humans have a real talent for making questionable choices.
Yeah, like seriously, just look at history. Wars, famines, environmental disasters. It's not a great track record, is it?
True, but we've also made incredible progress in science and technology.
That's a good point. We've made some major advancements as a species.
And you can't forget about the progress in social justice.
Right, there's been a lot of positive change as well, so maybe we're not all that stupid after all.
Maybe that's a better way to put it. Works in progress. But you know, there's this thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Dunning-Kruger effect? What's that?
It basically says that people who are incompetent tend to overestimate their abilities.
Oh, so like those people who are completely clueless but think they know everything?
Exactly. And that could explain some of those historical blunders, right? Maybe it was just plain ignorance disguised as competence.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like that saying, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing.
And then there's confirmation bias, too.
Confirmation bias. Remind me what that is again?
It's when we only look for information that confirms what we already believe, even if it's totally wrong.
Ah, that's like the whole echo chamber effect on social media.
Exactly. We surround ourselves with people who agree with us, and we just get stuck in this bubble of our own beliefs.
So maybe that's why it feels like stupidity is infinite. It's constantly being reinforced.
It's a vicious cycle, for sure. but it also shows how important it is to think critically and be open to different perspectives.
Which is a perfect segue into our next segment, the mind-boggling concept of time.
Time! Okay, bring it on.
So we've been talking about the universe being infinite, or maybe finite but boundless. But what about time? Is time infinite too?
That's a good question. What is time, anyway? Is it like a river, a spiral, or just a giant cosmic joke?
I don't know, but I'm ready to dive in and find out.
Me too. Let's untangle this whole time thing.
But first, I need a refill. All this talk about infinity is making me thirsty.
I hear you. Let's take a quick break.
I just want to give another shout out to Micky from Mickytolife. His channel is a treasure trove of inspiration, and he's a huge Sip&Talk fan.
Absolutely. Make sure to check him out and maybe even share your awesome podcast intro with him once you've created it.
Okay, so where were we? Ah, yes, time. It's a tricky one.
Yeah, like where do we even begin with this? It feels like one of those things you can't really define, you know? It just is.
I get that it can feel pretty abstract. A lot of people have tried to explain it, though. One idea is to think about time like a river, just flowing steadily from the past to the future.
A river of time. Yeah, I can see that. It's simple, kind of comforting in a way.
That was how Isaac Newton thought about it. Time is this absolute thing, ticking away at a constant rate everywhere. But if it's just this constant flow, doesn't that mean everything is already set? Like, no free will, just destiny. Kind of depressing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a big philosophical question for sure. And not everyone agreed with Newton's take on time.
Oh. So what did other people think?
Well, some philosophers, like Immanuel Kant, they argued that time isn't actually out there, like a river.
Wait, so if it's not out there, where is it?
They thought it's more like a framework that our minds use to make sense of everything we experience. Like a mental construct, if you will.
Well, hold on. You're saying time is just in our heads.
That's one way to look at it. It's like how we perceive time isn't necessarily how it actually is you know?
Okay, that's pretty mind-blowing. So if I'm having a blast at a concert, time flies by because I'm not really focused on it.
Exactly. And then if you're stuck in traffic, every second feels like an eternity because you're so aware of it.
That's actually true. I never thought about it like that before. But what about all the clocks and calendars? They measure time, don't they?
They do. But maybe they're not measuring some objective universal thing. Maybe they're just reflecting how our brains organize sensory information.
Okay, I'm starting to feel like I'm falling down a rabbit hole here. I need something to hold on to, something a little less abstract. Maybe Einstein can help. Didn't he have some theories about time?
He did, and that's where things get really interesting. Einstein's theory of relativity basically blew up our whole understanding of time.
Really? How so?
Well, he showed that time isn't this constant fixed thing like Newton thought. It's actually influenced by gravity and speed.
Wait, what? Gravity and speed can mess with time. How does that even work?
I know, right? It sounds crazy. But the evidence is pretty solid. Take time dilation, for example. Time actually slows down near the speed of light.
Hold on, are you saying that if I could travel at the speed of light, I'd age slower than everyone else on Earth?
Technically, yeah. The faster you move, the slower time passes for you relative to someone who's standing still.
Whoa, that's insane. So basically, I could become a time traveler. Where do I sign up for that?
Well, traveling at the speed of light is still a bit beyond our reach. But we do have evidence of time dilation happening on a smaller scale.
Like what?
Think about GPS satellites. They're orbiting Earth at super high speeds.
So they're basically time travelers, too.
In a way, yeah. And because of that, their clocks have to be adjusted to account for the effects of relativity. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to give us accurate location data.
Wow, so time isn't just this steady river like we imagined. It's more like bendy and twisty, changing depending on where you are and how fast you're moving.
Exactly. It's all relative. And there's another mind-blowing concept we have to touch on, the thermodynamic arrow of time.
Thermodynamic arrow of time. I think I need another coffee for this one. What is that all about?
Well, have you heard of entropy?
Entropy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about disorder. Right.
Right. It's the idea that over time, everything tends to move from a state of order to a state of disorder. Think about a hot cup of coffee cooling down.
Yeah, it never spontaneously gets hotter on its own.
Exactly. The second law of thermodynamics basically says that the universe, on a grand scale, is constantly moving towards more and more disorder.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this. So if time isn't this fixed linear thing and the universe is always becoming more chaotic, what does that mean for progress? Are we really moving forward, or is it all just an illusion?
That's a deep question, and it ties back to Einstein's quote about human stupidity, doesn't it? Are we actually getting smarter, or are we just creating new and more complicated forms of mess?
Whoa, mind blown. This is making my head spin.
I know, it's a lot to take in. But all this talk about time and progress makes me think about what's happening in the tech world right now, especially with this new Chinese AI platform DeepSeek. It's shaking things up.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that DeepSeek. It's causing quite a stir, isn't it? Why is everyone so freaked out about it?
Well, it's kind of challenging the whole AI game as we know it. Like, companies like OpenAI and Google have been investing billions in these massive AI models.
Yeah, it's been like an AI arms race. So where does DeepSeek fit into all of this?
Well, they're coming in and saying, we can do it better and for way cheaper.
Really? So it's like the David versus Goliath of the AI world.
Exactly. And that's got to be making those big tech investors pretty nervous. Imagine pouring billions into something, and then this new player comes along and undercuts you.
I can see why they'd be freaking out.
Yeah.
So what are those tech giants doing about DeepSeek? Are they just going to sit back and let it take over?
No way. They're definitely not taking this lying down. I mean, they're scrambling to come up with strategies to stay ahead of the curve.
Like what kind of strategy?
One approach is focusing on deeper product integration. Think about OpenAI's partnership with Microsoft, for instance. They're trying to make AI so seamlessly woven into our lives that we can't imagine living without it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Make it indispensable so people are willing to pay a premium. But what about DeepSeek's low-cost advantage? How can they compete with that?
Well, another strategy is to emphasize data security and privacy. That's a big concern for a lot of people, especially businesses handling sensitive information.
So it's like saying, yeah, DeepSeek might be cheap, but can you really trust them with your data?
Right. And of course, there's always the good old-fashioned acquisition strategy. Just buy up the promising startups before they become a real threat.
Ah, the classic power play. So DeepSeek is definitely shaking things up. But what does it all mean for the average person?
That's a good question. For one thing, it could mean access to more affordable AI tools, which could be a game changer for small businesses and individuals.
That's true. Imagine having access to powerful AI that can help you with everything from writing emails to creating marketing campaigns.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless. But there are also some concerns, of course, like what happens to jobs when AI can do them faster and cheaper?
Right, that's a valid concern. And what about the ethical implications? We've seen how AI can be used for good and for bad.
That's something we definitely need to keep in mind as AI becomes more widespread. It's not just about the technology itself, it's about how we use it.
Yeah, this is a topic we should definitely explore more in future deep dives. DeepSeek might just be the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the AI revolution.
Agreed. It's clear that AI is changing the world as we know it.
And it makes you think about everything we've discussed today. The universe, time, human progress.
Yeah.
It's all connected in a way.
Absolutely. This whole deep dive has really highlighted how everything is interconnected. It's humbling and inspiring at the same time.
You know, with all this talk about big ideas and external forces, I keep coming back to how this all affects us as individuals. How do we navigate a world that's constantly changing, full of uncertainty and information overload?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a challenge we all face in this day and age.
Mm.
And the articles we looked at even suggested that intentional disconnection can actually boost productivity.
Really? I wouldn't have thought that. How does that work?
Well, when we're constantly bombarded with information, it's hard to focus deeply on anything. But when we allow our minds to wander and disconnect, that's when we often have those aha moments, those creative breakthroughs.
It's like we need to make space for inspiration, clear out all the clutter.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual benefits either. Disconnecting is important for relationships, too.
That's true. It's hard to have a meaningful conversation with someone when they're glued to their phone.
I know. It's like we're physically present but mentally checked out. And that can lead to feeling isolated, even when we're surrounded by people.
So putting down the phone, being present in the moment, having a genuine conversation, those are all ways to combat that sense of loneliness.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing quality over quantity when it comes to our interactions.
You know, it's crazy how everything we've talked about today, the universe, time, AI, even our own minds, it's all connected in some way.
It is. It's a reminder that we're all part of something much bigger than ourselves. And even though the world can feel chaotic and overwhelming, there's still so much beauty and wonder to be found if we take the time to look. So we've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? The universe, time, AI, even our own brains.
Yeah, it's been pretty mind-blowing. Makes you realize how much there is to learn.
Definitely. And it makes you wonder how all of this, all these big ideas affect us as individuals.
That's a good point. Like, how do we navigate a world that's so complex and constantly changing?
Right. With all this information coming at us all the time, and one thing that really jumped out at me from all the articles we read
What's that?
was this whole tension between needing to stay informed, but also the importance of disconnecting sometimes.
Oh, I feel that. Like we're bombarded with information 24/7, and it's exhausting.
It really is. All the news, social media, emails. It's no wonder our brains feel fried.
Yeah, seriously. And the articles we looked at talked about how this information overload can lead to anxiety and even problems sleeping.
Yeah, and it can mess with our attention spans too, you know? It's like we're constantly switching from one thing to another and never really focusing on anything deeply.
And then there's the whole issue of misinformation and clickbait headlines. It's hard to know what to believe anymore.
Absolutely. That's why critical thinking is more important than ever. We have to be careful about what we consume and where we get our information from.
So what's the solution? Should we all just dish technology and go live in a cave somewhere?
Well, that might work for some people, but realistically, most of us can't just escape technology completely.
Yeah, it's pretty much woven into our lives at this point.
Exactly. So I think the key is finding a balance, being intentional about disconnecting and giving ourselves time to recharge.
Intentional disconnection.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. What would that look like in everyday life?
It could be as simple as taking a walk in nature, reading a book, meditating, or just having a face-to-face conversation with a friend.
Yeah, those all sound pretty good, actually. Way better than staring at a screen all day.
Right. And it's not just about feeling more relaxed. The articles we read even suggested that disconnecting can actually boost productivity.
Really? How so?
Well, when we give our brains a break from all that stimulation, it allows us to think more clearly and creatively.
It's like clearing out the mental clutter so we can make space for new ideas.
Exactly. And it's not just about individual benefits either. The articles also talked about how important disconnecting is for relationships.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's hard to connect with someone when they're constantly checking their phone.
I know. It's like we're physically present, but mentally absent.
And that can lead to feeling isolated, even when you're surrounded by people?
Exactly. So putting down the phone, being present in the moment, and having a genuine conversation are all ways to combat that sense of loneliness.
It's about quality over quantity when it comes to our interactions, right?
Absolutely. It's about making time for those meaningful connections that really matter.
You know, it's amazing how all these topics we've discussed today, the universe, time, AI, and even our own minds, are all connected in some way.
It really is. It's like this big web of interconnectedness, and it makes you realize that even in a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming, there's still so much beauty and wonder to be found if we just take the time to look.
I love that. Well said. So I guess it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah, I think we've officially reached peak brain capacity for one day.
But this is just the beginning of the conversation, right?
Right. Exactly. We've explored some pretty big ideas today, but there's always more to learn and discover.
So to our listeners, what resonated with you the most from this episode? What are you still thinking about? Let us know. You can find us on all the socials.
And remember, even though we've reached the end of this particular deep dive, the journey of learning and exploration never truly ends.
So keep those minds curious and those hearts open, and we'll catch you in the next deep dive.